Now, Lowcountry Forever, a public affairs presentation of the Charleston Radio Group.
There's a housing issue in the Lowcountry. Can it be solved? Well, we certainly hope so. We're going to take some steps in that direction today here on Lowcountry Forever. I'm Brian Cleary, and joining me is Craig Logan. Craig is the Housing Executive Fellow with the Charleston Metro Chamber. Now, Craig, it's a position that you've just come into. Is this a new position with the Chamber or one that the Chamber's had for a while?
Brian, this is a new position with the Chamber. So this is brand new. March was my start date. So super excited to kind of help the Chamber launch in this direction as we really think about this crisis that is taking over our area.
Define for us, if you would, the role as a Housing Executive Fellow. The Chamber has tasked you to do what?
So as the Housing Executive Fellow, I will be the key point of contact person for the Chamber, working with local governments around housing issues, policy issues, but also working to put together a regional housing coalition. That is really one of the big tasks that I'm tasked with here at the Chamber, is to kind of think about how that's going to look, the build out of that, and then really implement in that regional housing coalition.
Now, I think when people look at the Chamber of Commerce, whether it's here in Charleston or wherever, you think Chamber of Commerce, you think businesses. For the most part, the housing issues that we have affect individuals. It's an issue that needs solved. Any help is great, but why would the Chamber get involved with an issue that's seemingly for individuals and not necessarily businesses?
When we think about housing, of course, we just think about those keywords, right? We think about housing, we think about rent prices, we think about the shortage of housing, but we really don't connect the dots in that area. So housing is an issue that really is a cross-sectional problem. Housing affects the workforce. When employees can't live close to where they work, they're forced to travel an hour and a half in traffic to work and from work. And what that does for the business sector is it makes it really hard for them to keep qualified individuals. It makes them hard to recruit individuals here in the Lowcountry because, again, if you're moving to the Lowcountry and you're brand new to it and you get here and you realize, man, I don't have adequate housing or I can't afford the housing that's available here, well, then that broadens the issue of housing beyond just knowing that there's a housing shortage. But then now it's affecting that workforce development aspect of it. So at the Chamber, of course, one of the biggest things that our members have been communicating to us here over the last 2 or 3 years is that there is a shortage of housing, and that's directly impacting their ability to bring in qualified, skilled people for the workforce.
So the housing issue doesn't affect everyone. So there may be some people who say, oh, wait a second, the economy in the Charleston and the Lowcountry area is booming. Everything's up and running. We're doing well. How is it? Why is it that there is a housing issue? How can you address that?
If we think about housing, there's an estimated 76,000 housing units in the region that spend about 30% of their income or more on housing. And so when you think about that and you really dial into those numbers, that impacts everybody. It impacts them having the ability to live a quality life. It impacts them affecting how they spend their money, where they choose to put their money, and then also where they choose to put their time. You know, when we think about housing and we think about how that develops into the workforce, if you're spending 2 hours on the road each day, an hour to work and an hour from work, that's time that you're not with your family. That's time that you're not there with your kids, helping them after school with their homework. And that's time that is just dedicated solely to being on the road. And when we even think about that, right, a shortage of housing means that there are going to be more cars on the road. So now we get into a transit issue, and it really just begins to impact every piece of the economy and the moving workforce.
That's amazing. It's like the onion, and you're peeling back the layers, and we're finding more and more issues. We're talking with Craig Logan. He is the Housing Executive Fellow with the Charleston Area Chamber of Commerce, joining us today on Lowcountry Forever. And Craig, when we talk about the housing issue, is it just that people can't afford to buy housing, or are you finding out that renters have the same challenges?
And that goes really across the board. So renters are also having issues finding decent places to live, places that, again, are not super distant from their workplace, and then just finding rents that are affordable. Rents actually within the last decade, and especially in 2019, increased about 40% regionally in the Lowcountry. And so say you're a local teacher and you're working at a school, ideally it would be great to be able to have a short 10 or 15 minute commute to your job. but teachers are being forced further and further away from where they're actually working. And so what that does to the workforce is teachers just simply aren't accepting those jobs, or they're moving to a city where adequate housing is a bit more affordable. And that then creates a shortage of teachers in the workforce as well. So it isn't just those people who are looking to purchase a home, but even those people who are just looking for affordable rentals. That housing issue really tackles rentals, and it also tackles home ownership.
So I guess then we're in a real estate boom right now. Everybody's talking about, hey, I put my house on the market. 18 hours later, I have an offer, 10% over what I'm asking. So that's a good thing. But on the other side, not so good for people trying to rent houses, people that can't afford to buy these houses. The chamber has taken on an issue that comes with challenges.
Absolutely. That is definitely one of the big initiatives with this new role at the chamber, is just looking at how can we work through that problem so that it's going to be super beneficial to both renters, to both employees, and even to those people who are looking to purchase a home here in the Lowcountry.
So as your role in the Housing Executive Fellow with the Chamber, as much as I would like you to, you're not going to pay my rent for me, and you can't do it on an individual basis. You talked about bringing some people together. Is this a legislative thing? Is this city, state? Can you point us in which direction you think you may head?
We're definitely at the beginning of really building the foundational pieces of what this regional housing coalition is going to be. But it's going to be a coalition that is going to do really about three things. The first thing is going to be to educate people on the housing crisis that's here in the Lowcountry. You made mention that for some people, they're thinking this doesn't even impact me or doesn't affect me. So it's about really bringing stories together, bringing the narrative together behind why there is an issue and why it really impacts people who really don't think it impacts them. And with the Regional Housing Coalition, education is an important aspect of it. And then after we educate people, we hope to bring along advocates that are going to help us tell those stories, that are going to help us educate their network and their circle of influence, so that we know what the issue is, we know how it impacts the region as a whole, and then we can work together to figure out some sustainable solution so that we can get ahead of this thing.
I love the fact that you use the word sustainable. I would think some people would worry that, hey, it's great that the chamber's getting involved, but is this just going to be a, hey, we'll have a lunch here and a talk here? What do you think would be, at least, if not the definition of success for what you're doing, at least you know that you're making some progress and going in the right direction? Is there anything you could point to that would help paint that path to show that, yeah, we're making some positive effects here for the community?
The third piece of that goal that we'll be working with the Regional Housing Coalition is going to be action. So honestly, when we start to really look at numbers of how many projects are being permitted, how many affordable rental units are being built and being accessible to the workforce here in the Lowcountry, when we think about those kind of numbers, those are going to be some of the metrics that we're going to use to let us know that, hey, we are moving towards the right direction. So again, not the only thing that'll be useful, but those are going to be super useful as we educate people and as we build out that advocacy piece of it. Then we're going to look and see, hey, let's look what the numbers are. Let's look at what action items are we talking about, and are we really putting in place to bring forth some sustainable change?
And Craig, when we talk about the housing issue, I think some people would look at it as, well, those are people who aren't really trying to work, or they just have a low-end job. I've been surprised myself to find out in talking with people like yourself and even some homeless organizations, there's some people that are homeless in the Lowcountry that have full-time jobs. They just aren't making enough money to pay the rent. And I think that's kind of what you're talking about and what you're pointing to here, the affordability factor.
Absolutely. So when we talk about affordable housing and we talk about housing in general, that goes from homelessness all the way up to people who are making 120% of the average median income. And so we got to look at housing from a total aspect and total perspective. So that addresses those people who are on the lower end, who are fighting against homelessness, to those people who make that 120% of the area median income, finding housing that is suitable for them. When you think about that and how it really trickles down and impact, there's a shortage of housing in general. And so for that person who does make 120% of the area median income, if they can't find adequate apartments to rent or housing units to purchase, they're going to go and find what they can afford. And so now you have a problem to where you have that person who makes that 120% of the area median income now being able to say, hey, listen, I really can't find anything that I would love to rent. So let me go and find something that I know I can afford in my budget, and that is going to allow me to either be closer to my workforce or closer to my job, or that is just going to, again, give me somewhere to put my head, to lay my head down at night. And so when you think about kind of how that scales down and how this impacts the whole range of housing, that's the issue that we have to talk about, from, again, homelessness all the way up to that person who makes above that 120% of that area median income.
This is Lowcountry Forever. I'm Brian Cleary, joined by Craig Logan, the Housing Executive Fellow. It's a new position with the Charleston Metro Chamber of Commerce. Craig, I have to think that people will be encouraged to know that the Chamber of Commerce, normally just a business organization, and certainly there's a business angle to do that, helping out individuals in the area. Can you take a second, though, for people who they think they know what the chamber does, but as a chamber member and someone who works for the chamber, how do you describe your organization to folks out in the community?
So the Chamber of Commerce, super amazing organization. The Charleston Metro Chamber of Commerce has actually been around for over 200 years. It served as the second oldest chamber in the country. And so when you think about the impact with just having those positions, those titles like that, there's a lot of impact that's been made around the chamber and around kind of what we do. So the chamber is a organization serving 1,600 members strong. And we serve as a collective voice to drive solutions for a thriving community. And so, again, when we talk about thriving community, you can't talk about a thriving community and not include housing in that when it's such a big issue in the Lowcountry region. And so for us, it's about really, tackling those toughest regional challenges, again, like housing attainability and infrastructure, and really bridging the gap while creating exclusive access to networking, to leadership opportunities that are really going to help drive and grow businesses and also grow employees as well.
So, Craig, for anyone listening today who is encouraged to hear that the chamber is going to get involved in this housing issue, is there anything that you need? Can people reach out and provide you information? Or if they have questions, can they reach out, contact, and talk with you about the issue?
Yeah, absolutely. So most definitely, I would say the biggest way to really stay connected about what's going on and big impacts that are happening over at the chamber is visit the website. So charlestonchamber.org. You can follow us on all social media outlets as well. That's going to really get you the most up-to-date engagement on kind of what we have going on, programs and opportunities that are available for the community, and directly too as well, if there are any questions specifically around housing, or maybe how can the chamber assist your organization, or what partnerships maybe can be built, you can definitely reach out to me at clogan@charlestonchamber.org, or just give the chamber a call, and they always can transfer you over to me as well.
And the process that you're in, obviously in its infancy stages, but it sounds like you're full steam ahead with this.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, for me, a big part of that brand new position, March was kind of that start date for me. So a lot of what I've been doing is really listening, right? So taking an opportunity to hear the stories, hear how the housing shortage and housing crisis here in the Lowcountry are affecting the members and people in the general community. So for me, it's super important to make sure that I have an ear to the neighborhoods, an ear to the community, so that I know what that story is on a ground level. And hopefully from hearing those stories, begin to work with those key change agents in the region to push forward better policies, to push forward more opportunities for housing, attainable housing across the region of Charleston.
Affordable housing has become a serious issue here in the Lowcountry. It's great to see the Charleston Metro Chamber of Commerce stepping up to help. Craig Logan is the Chamber's Housing Executive Fellow and our guest today on Lowcountry Forever.
The Charleston Radio Group is the Lowcountry. Every week, we highlight local organizations and events that are helping to make a difference here where we live. If you have a group, event, or an idea to feature on Lowcountry Forever, let us know. Visit lowcountryforever.com and click on our podcast link for contact information. Now, Lowcountry Forever continues.
It's that great time of year in the Lowcountry. Spring has sprung, weather is warm, people are getting out and doing things, and we've got a suggestion for you that you should be doing on May 7th in Moncks Corner. I'm Brian Cleary, and today on Lowcountry Forever, we're talking with some of our friends from the Carolina Youth Development Center. Joining us is the Vice President of Development with the Youth Development Center, Dan Daniel, and also the center's event and volunteer manager, Katie Bendon. Now, Katie, let me throw this out at you. May 7th, the event is a color run. What in the wide world of sports, for people who don't know, is a color run?
So a color run is where you come out. We're providing white T-shirts for you. And as you're making your way through the 5K, you will be showered with colored powder. So we have a couple different stations with different colors that by the end of it, your whole white T-shirt should look like a rainbow.
This is a fun event. This is fun to do. You're not shooting paint guns at people.
Correct. Yes, it is fun. We provide sunglasses and T-shirts so you don't get it in your eyes. Strollers are welcome. Friendly pets are welcome. It's a very fun-filled event for the family.
And so we'll be coming up on May 7th. Give me the who, what, where, when for this event.
So it is on Saturday, May 7th. The race kicks off at 9 a.m. It is at the Moncks Corner Recreation Complex. People can register for $35 online, or they can come the day of and pay the $35 to run. And it'll just be a fun event. People will come out, they'll get showered with color, and at the end of it, we'll have a DJ, some food trucks, some inflatables. So it should be a fun-filled Saturday.
Seems like a run for a guy like me who's not really in shape. This isn't the bridge run. We're not running you can run for time. Obviously, you'll be timing. It'll be a race as well, but it seems to be a less serious event.
Right. It's only 3 miles, so you can run, walk, skip, jog, whatever your heart fancies.
Only 3 miles. That's said by someone who's probably in pretty good shape. But me, on the other hand, 3 miles, but I can make it. I know I can. And of course, it will benefit Carolina Youth Development Center. So, Dan, for people who are unfamiliar with what the Carolina Youth Development Center is, how would you explain that to someone?
Carolina Youth Development Center, or CYDC, because that's a mouthful, is South Carolina's oldest and longest operating nonprofit. We were founded in 1790 as the Charleston Orphan House, and we've been a significant part of the social fabric of the Lowcountry for more than 230 years. Our mission is to cultivate thriving children and families. We do that using a proven process that includes healing, teaching, strengthening, and empowering. Our goal is really to help families stay intact, but in those instances where a child is better off living apart from their family, we provide a residential option where we can provide more intensive therapy, more support services to really help them heal and get back to a place where they can thrive in their family or in a foster family, or to be prepared for independent living.
People may know that you've got the facility there in North Charleston, and someone may then ask Dan, well, why would you do an event in Moncks Corner?
So we actually have 2 campuses. Our North Charleston campus was opened in 1951 and replaced the original orphan house located downtown Charleston. But in 1998, we opened a second campus in Moncks Corner. That campus is the only emergency shelter in all of Berkeley County, but we provide the same residential support services there for youth that we do in North Charleston.
And in both of the quote-unquote old titles for the organization that's been around, 2 centuries now, the word orphan comes up. Is orphan a bad word these days?
It's not a bad word. It's really just a word that has gone out of our vernacular and has been replaced with the foster care system. Today, we don't really have orphanages in our country, at least not very many of them, because the goal over the years has been to find ways to strengthen families so they can stay together. And that really dates all the way back to the creation of the Social Security Administration and the original widows and orphan benefit that for the first time in our country's history really gave a single parent the financial ability to keep a child at home if they lost the breadwinner for the family. And so that's really when we started to see orphanages start to decline and over time be replaced with the foster care system that we know today.
On Lowcountry Forever today, we're talking with folks from the Carolina Youth Development Center. I'm Brian Cleary, joined by the Vice President of Development at CYDC. He is Dan Daniel. Also, the event and volunteer manager, Katie Bendon, is with us. Now, Katie, we've got the event coming up about May 7th in Monk's Corner. I can register as an individual or I can join a team. Is that correct?
That is correct. So if you want to come out with your family, friends, coworkers, there's always the option to join together as a team and raise money for our organization.
And you've got a big sponsor for the Color 5K event. Who would that be?
Our presenting sponsor is Home Telecom. So we've had a very long-standing relationship with them, and they've actually had a lot of their employees come out in the past. So we are excited to have them as our presenting sponsor this year.
And if somebody wants to either form a team or register individually, what's the steps they need to take to do that?
To form a team, you can go to cydc.org. Under our events tab, you can just click on the Give Me Shelter Color 5K, and that will take you to the website where you can register, form a team, donate if you're unable to attend the event, and then you can also check out the fun prizes that you could win by fundraising.
So, Katie, you're in charge of the event as well, but in your introduction, I mentioned the fact that you were also a volunteer manager. If somebody wants to volunteer with CYDC, or can they volunteer for this event? How does it work if I want to give some of my time?
Yeah, great question. So if you're just looking to volunteer with the organization, you can always just reach out via our main website. For the event specifically, on that Color Run page, there is a volunteer sign up. We are looking for lots of volunteers, so you could be the lucky person that gets to throw the color at people that day. Woo-hoo! So if you'd like to volunteer, you can go to that website, sign up, and we'd love to have you.
So Brian, rather than putting yourself out there and committing to walking 3 miles, you can stand in one spot and throw powder paint at people walking by, or volunteer to hand out water bottles, to check people in when the event begins that morning. There are plenty of ways for you to participate that don't involve you working up a sweat or getting covered with paint.
I have to admit, the throwing paint thing kind of is very intriguing, and I'm sure I'm not alone. So somebody needs to step up and volunteer for that. Now, Dan, I mentioned, and Katie did, the fact that Home Telecom has stepped up. There are some corporate sponsors and some organizations in the area that do help out the Carolina Youth Development Center. Why don't you talk a little bit about the help that you get from our Lowcountry community?
Absolutely. And I want to give a really big shout out to Home Telecom. They have been a supporter of CYDC for almost 3 decades. Ever since we opened our Monk's Corner campus, they have stepped up in big ways and in consistent ways to support our organization. They do that not just with the company's money, but they also do it with the time that their employees put into coming out and volunteering, both at the center and at our events. They've just been a phenomenal partner for many, many years. That's also true for Berkeley Electric Cooperative. They have been longtime supporters of our Berkeley operations. Other companies in the area, Nucor Steel, Santee Cooper, Parker Hannafin, are all repeat supporters of this event. And this year we're recognizing some new sponsors, Seafox Boat Company, which is located right there in Monk's Corner, Premier Nationwide Lending, which offers mortgage lending services throughout the Tri-County area. I mean, this event would not be possible, nor would any of the things that we do as an organization be possible without the significant support of our local community, including our corporate community.
And as an individual or someone who's listening to us with our conversation today, what is it that you could use from the community in terms of what kind of help that a person could provide to the Carolina Youth Development Center?
Well, we like to remind people that with a 9-acre campus in Monk's Corner and a 36-acre campus in North Charleston, both of which have been around for decades, there's rarely a day when something doesn't need to be pounded, planted, or painted. And so we always have opportunities for both individuals, for social clubs, church groups, corporate groups to come out and spend an hour, a half a day, helping make sure that our facilities stay beautiful and functional. We also have opportunities for individuals to interact with the youth who live with us. Folks like KCON and Joy Law Firm love to come out in the summertime, do barbecues for the kids. Our kids look forward to that. And then, volunteering at events like our Color Run is just a great way for groups of individuals, whether they're friends or Sunday school class or corporate departments, to come out and spend time with each other supporting a great cause.
Today on Lowcountry Forever, we're talking about the Give Me Shelter Color 5K that's coming up on May 7th. It's an event that benefits the Carolina Youth Development Center, and I'm Brian Cleary, joined by Dan Daniel. He is the Vice President of Development with CYDC, and Kate Bendon, who is the Event and Volunteer Manager. Now, Dan, for people who are kind of getting a sense of what you do at CYDC, the individuals that you have as part of the program, I'm using the word bad for a second time, but these aren't bad kids, right?
Oh, no. We don't believe there really is such a thing as a bad kid. There are children of all ages who find themselves in situations that no child can be adequately prepared for. And whether that's the result of poverty, the result of dysfunction in the family due to addiction issues or loss of job or change of health, there are family circumstances that are hard for any of us to get our arms around. And organizations like CYDC think it's important that we wrap those families up in support to help them deal with whatever crisis they're dealing with. And when that support means removing that child from the home, either on a short-term or long-term basis, we want to make sure that that child feels loved, feels valued, gets the support that they need, so that at some point, ideally, they can reunify with that family or thrive in a foster care family, or if they're with us until they turn 18, are prepared to go out, have a productive adulthood.
So the Give Me Shelter Color 5K is coming up on May 7th. It'll happen in Moncks Corner. Katie, it's more than just a run. Obviously, it's a fun run, but then you guys have some planned activities. It's really kind of a fun morning for the entire family, I would assume.
Correct. Yeah. Once the run is over, we'll have different inflatables, food trucks, a DJ. So we're really trying to create a fun morning, early afternoon for all families, coworkers, and everyone in the area.
And we've had some
Brian, we're counting on you to make sure that it's sunny and 70 degrees.
Absolutely. I'm this close with Storm Team 2's Rob Fowler, and I'll give him a call and just say, look, at perfect weather, cool in the 70s, and then warm it up after the run's done to about 78, 80. It'll be a Moncks Corner Chamber of Commerce day, no doubt about it.
Perfect.
So we want Katie to get people involved in the run, individual as in teams. And again, give us that information so that people can sign up and be a part of the event.
Yeah, so anyone who wants to be part of the event can go to cydc.org. Under our events tab, you can click on the Give Me Shelter Color 5K, and that's where you can register for the event. It is a $35 registration fee for all individuals, and then you can create teams with your friends, families, coworkers, neighbors, whoever, and you can all come out and participate in the run together and get covered in color. Dan, will you be coloring people in color, or will you be running yourself, or what's your role on this Saturday? I know Katie's going to be running the show, so what will you be up to that morning?
I suspect that no matter what Katie has me do, I'm going to end up covered in powdered paint. I have resigned myself to that. So I'm hoping to be able to get out there and run the course. I've got several friends of mine that are going to be joining me and my wife. So we plan on running the event, but whether I end up doing that or working at one of the color stations or water stations, I suspect by the end of the day, this gray hair of mine is going to have more purple and yellow in it than anything else.
It'll be the hippest you've looked in the 21st century. Purple hair on you, Dan. I look forward to that.
Sad but true.
The money that's being raised is funds that the CYDC really needs and will also help there in both North Charleston and in Moncks Corner.
That's absolutely correct. Our annual operating budget is about $4.5 million. Our largest source of funding is the federal government. That flows through the South Carolina Department of Social Services, but they simply don't cover all the cost of providing excellent care with proper oversight and fidelity. And so we have to rely on the philanthropy of our community. Last year, about 27% of our budget came through our events and through individual donations. So this is significant for us.
And we have all the information you need on the Give Me Shelter Color 5K Run to benefit Carolina Youth Development Center on Saturday, May 7th in Moncks Corner on each of the Charleston Radio Group websites. The Carolina Youth Development Center, our guest today on Lowcountry Forever.
Thanks for listening to Lowcountry Forever. If you missed any of this week's show, there's a complete recording under the podcast link at lowcountryforever.com. Lowcountry Forever is a public affairs presentation of the Charleston Radio Group.